Hey guys, Tarke here, and today we are going to be talking about these scarab things. What am I? We've got a TLDR from everything we've compiled, and we're going to explain it completely how the scarabs work, and then we're going to kind of get into like the pros and cons of the system. So, how exactly do they work? What have we deduced with all of our insane investigative work? Right. So, this is exactly how scarabs work, and this has been confirmed. They drop only from Syndicate safe houses / strongholds. Different Syndicate members drop different scarabs. There are 3 tiers: rusted, polished, and gilded. They are fragments, and you can put up to 3 in a single map. But you cannot stack multiple scarabs of the same kind / genre. So, for example, using this breach one, you couldn't put 3 breach scarabs in. You couldn't put 3 gilded breach, or presumably also a rusted, a polished, or a gilded. So you can't have like crazy breach stacking. But you could use, for example, the breach one, the div card one, and then, for example, the seagull one. You could do that. Right. Now, they will be included in a custom tab later, but that won't be ready at release. So they'll most likely go into the fragment tab, but that won't be ready at release. So at release, the inventory management is going to be really obnoxious, and we don't know if they will stack. They probably won't stack because they work like fragments. So yeah, they're going to be pretty obnoxious. Now, there are 18 Syndicate members, and each Syndicate member drops a different scarab, and each scarab has 3 tiers, which implies there are 18 times 3 equals 54 mother flipping scarabs. Now, I asked Bex about this, and she was like, yep, that makes sense, but I don't know exactly, but yeah. So basically, yeah, this is probably how it works. At most, there'll be 54. There might be 1 or 2 which don't drop them, but basically they're going to be 54, including 3 tiers. So 18 different types of scarab, of which we already know 2, and when you combine all the tiers, 54. So again, not having a custom tab for them early and them not stacking means there might be a lot of like inventory creep going on. Now, there are 4 different divisions, and each division has a different stronghold / safe house. They've used both words in their press coverage. So you only get them dropping from the stronghold / safe house based on the Syndicate members, and there are different ranks within the safe houses. So if we look at this, for example, you can see here that once you've like completed a Syndicate event, you get this little pop-up and you choose, do you want to upgrade the rank of this member, or do you want to gain intelligence towards this safe house's location? So if you knew that Rin here dropped the scarab you really wanted, so say it dropped the seagull scarab, gives 100% more seagulls in maps, and you're like, I want this guy to drop the best possible one, the higher his rank, it would make sense, the better his thing would be. From what we've seen of it with the 3 different tiers, there'll most likely be 3 different ranks. So if you look at it, the same video later on at 3:29, this is the like promo video, you see a picture of the massive board here. Now, again, this is all like speculation just from what we know so far. If we look at transportation, these are the 4 captains. So there are 4 captains of each thing. I would assume the captains only drop the gilded fossils, right? Whereas the rank beneath it would then drop the polished fossils, and the rank behind that would drop the rusted. Just under assumption from what Chris has said in this video himself about how the higher ranked the members are, the better their personal lodgings are. Because when you raid a safe house, you're like raiding their personal space and their personal chests. So it makes the most sense. Highest rank they are, the best scarabs. So that's kind of what you need to think about in your head. So, with all of that in mind, now that you kind of know how it works, let's kind of get into the TLDR pros and cons of the system going in. Right. A very obvious pro. This is an incredibly fun system. Like, you get to put more things in your map. People enjoy breach, getting a bunch more breaches. That's just fun. So it's just like, it's a fun thing. You're adding cool things to your maps. People like killing monsters. You add more monsters. People generally enjoy that. It also rewards knowledge and planning. So you need to like understand how the system itself works. You need to work out, okay, you know, for example, Gravicious drops the particular Scarab I want, but then, you know, so does this Kima guy. How do I position in such a way that I upgrade Gravicious and Kima to the highest possible ranks, then find their locations? You're choosing, you know, am I killing you to get a higher rank, or am I trying to work out the location of the stronghold? You've got to like make decisions, both of which are very powerful here, and it's going to reward proper planning, and it's going to take a while for us to work out really what is the best system. Always getting the safe houses early to get more safe houses, to get more Scarabs, but maybe of lesser tiers, or not necessarily of the particular Scarabs you want, or to target farm specific members to get specific drops, right? Now, this will take a lot of time to min-max, and that is a good thing in my mind. You could also see this as a negative, because this is also like a lot of random shit to like track. So it's very overwhelming, but, you know, it has got the fact that once you do understand it, there's a lot going on there. Now, the fact that Scarabs themselves are so powerful from what we've seen, they're incredibly rewarding. Like, just because of how strong Scarabs are, safe houses will feel good. And not only do safe houses give you Scarabs, they also give you, like, particular items. Chris talked a few times, like, if you're playing a bow build, there's a particular syndicate member who drops very powerful bow mods. So you could be like, oh, I want to target farm this particular guy because he drops certain items which are good for my build, and then this other guy drops particular Scarab things. So there's lots of reasons for you to engage with that system, and you're getting lots of rewards in terms of just like raw currency drops, Scarab drops, and like powerful item drops. This is also improved Legacy 2.0. Personally, I didn't really enjoy Legacy, but a lot of people have Legacy as one of their favorite leagues, and people have wanted Legacy to come back. This is like Legacy upper step. So if you enjoyed Legacy, you'll enjoy this new system. So that is definitely a good thing for you. If, like me, you weren't that keen on Legacy, then oh well. But hopefully it's polished up enough now that the things that we don't like about Legacy won't plague the Scarab system. Now, from one of the revealed ones that we see here, the airdrops from some more div cards, it shows they're clearly making more interesting Scarabs than just vanilla ones. Also, on that note, because there are 3 tiers of Scarabs, and we see here the gold Breach Scarab gives you 3, and the silver, the tier 2 div card, gives you 100% more, it would make sense that the rusted Scarab would be 100%, the polished would be 200, and the gold would be 300, and likewise the rusted Breach Scarab would be 1 breach, polished 2 breach, 3. So they'll probably be very linear, like 1, 2, 3 kind of rewards. But doing stuff like more div cards is interesting. Stuff like more seagulls is interesting. While Breach is fun, it's a bit like stale. So I'm really curious to see what the more like interesting, not just league-specific ones that they're doing. So I'm really into that. Now, this also lets players target farm past league items. So if you want a particular build, for example, from Breach League, and you're playing SSF, or you're a solo player, or someone who doesn't like trading that much, or you want a particular item which is hard to acquire in Trade League, you could use the system to like further farm specific items. It's one thing I really like about div cards themselves, and I think more choice in that is good. Also, just one brief thing, a lot of people say, oh, this would be like so broken for doctor farming. You need to keep in mind these Scarabs will have a value attached to them. We don't know how much they'll cost, because obviously we don't know the availability of them. We don't know like if there are different tiers, if some are harder to get than others. But basically, don't just think, oh, this div card one is only going to be used for doctor farming in burial chambers, because if this Scarab, for example, is worth like 10C or 20C, is it worth adding an extra like 20C in cost to every map you roll, just to maybe get a slightly higher chance at doctor? Over the long run, like the amount of maps you'd have to drop to get one, probably not. So because these have a value to them, you have to pick, do you just want the fun instant reward of like more breaches, or is it better to sell them? Is it this? Is it that? There's a lot of interesting economy things which comes with this system. Some people love it, some people just be like, whatever, just use it, never sell. But it's interesting to kind of see how that could all work. Now, again, this is amazing for SSF/solo players. As someone who mostly plays SSF or currently doing small private league, like basically group self-found, something like this is crazy, right? We get all the fun sides of things, but because we have a very small economy in a private league, we don't really have all the downsides of having like competitive groups buying it all up or owning certain parts of the market. You know, if we get a fun Scarab, we're not going to sell it, we're just going to use it. So for people like that, amazing system, really, really cool. and also because it's very limited, it probably won't reach like the absurd power creep level where we use it on every single map, because you probably just won't have that level of availability. So for small solo players or SSF players or private league players, this seems like a really fun system. It's mostly for like the super competitive trade league players that it could be a bit toxic. Nice XP and rewards. XP and rewards, people generally like them. It's a good thing. You don't want to give too much because then you get insane power creep, but yeah, it's cool. Another thing, this is modular. Modular is very much a bit of a buzzword. All the leagues they've designed have had this like easy addition thing on there. So what I mean by modular, it's very easy for them to add new syndicate members and new scarabs in the future. They could do this throughout the league itself, or if Betrayal ever like goes into the core game, they could, you know, do it that way. So yeah, it's very easy to expand upon this system. Right, getting into the cons. Micromanagement. There is a lot of micromanagement with this system. So now, whenever you want to start a map, you need to put a map into the map device, then put in as many scarabs as you want to. Let's say you're running, you know, 1 scarab per map, then that means that if you're running 10 maps, you have 10 maps and 10 scarabs in your inventory at all times. A lot of people don't like how like fiddly mapping is. Like, you've got to do your maps, you've got to apply your sextants, you've got to track all these things. You're going to be constantly like checking your atlas to see where your masters are popping up, checking your Shaper Elder stuff. I could have very easily see this league and the new like master system becoming very overwhelming, where like you're constantly checking your atlas between every single map, not so much like chaining maps. So that could be potentially a slight worry, not just because of scarabs, but I feel like the master system could lead to a lot of like constantly checking atlas after every map, every other map, and then the scarab just adds like further steps to it. Again, this will become less of an issue later into the league once you can use the fragment tab for it. But until then, you also have the fact that you're going to be managing multiple tabs. So every time you want to roll maps, you need to get your maps from the map tab, then go to your currency tab to use your chisels, your alks, your vols, and then go to your separate tab to then get your scarabs. So it's just like, it's adding more stuff, and this is also like more, it makes new players with the limited tabs, you know, PlayStation players coming out, like a whole bunch of new people can be playing this with only 4 stash tabs. It's a lot to just like throw on a new dude. That's like pretty insane. So yeah, micro and stash inventory stuff could be really intense, especially if you're doing like super zoom group stuff and you're maybe even running up to like 3 scarabs per map. If you have 10 maps in your inventory and you're running 3 scarabs per map, that means you then also need an additional 30 slots taken up with scarabs, which leaves you with like nothing. So yeah, you're going to be constantly running backwards and forwards. This actually buffs Impulsor. Anything which buffs Impulsor is a bad thing in my mind. You're like, Tarke, how does this buff Impulsor? You're adding more monsters to the map. The more monsters in the map, the more powerful Impulsor becomes. So yeah, you buff particular builds, and that's slightly oops. Legacy 2.0. If you're someone who didn't like Legacy, you probably don't want it to come back. So this is both a pro and a con. You could also argue this is mechanic bloat. People took a very long time to understand how stuff like Sextant works. This seems like it'll be a lot more simple in its like use, like the way you actually like use the items. You just put it into the map. You don't have to fuck around with all the atlas stuff, so that's fine. But you have to understand the core system, how you acquire them, who drops what, as I mentioned earlier. Personally, not too much of an issue for me, but I know some players want to just run maps. They want to... A lot of people said the thing they like about Delve is they just delve. They don't have to worry about rolling their maps and stuff. So if you're people who just want to like just play the game and not fuck with all the management stuff, stuff like this is going to further make them miss Delve and will have less access to Delve. So there might even be even more complaints that, you know, Path of Exile is becoming too much inventory stuff and less actual playtime stuff. You know what I mean? You're spending more time in menus and inventories and less time actually playing the game. Very obvious power creep. This will lead to a lot more XP, a lot more rewards. This is really fun in the short term. Long term, if this goes core, I mean, you hear this from me every league. Really cool, really fun, but you have to keep a slight eye on rewards. Could lead to server issues. So I've been doing a lot of duo play since private leagues come out, and me and Kane are playing dual Herald of Agony builds. We do some knockback shenanigans for survivability, and we like freeze up pretty hard. I've actually caused a few game crashes by just like attacking too much with super attack speed builds. So the more like mobs you add to a map, the more like strain you add to the system. Even if you just do like fully sextanted Elder Shaper like Underground Seas, you can have like your game freezing up. Adding like even more shit on that is like yikes. Jonathan said on the latest Bay class that the server thing was the biggest hindrance of the game and they need to improve it. Hopefully they will improve it with time, but until they do, adding more systems like this could be like kind of a problem. Again, I'm not saying they shouldn't expand on the game because of the current limitations, but it's something to keep in mind when you add so much, additional monsters. But really, we all like killing lots of monsters. Hopefully the server issue gets fixed and we can shove as many monsters as we can into a pack. So, dependent on availability, this could be super obnoxious in Trade League. Again, it won't affect me personally. I have a few friends who are into the super competitive stuff, super min-max, people like Grimro. If you're someone like that, you're going to spend even more time trading, even less time playing. So it's like, okay, you're rolling your maps. I need to buy chisels. I need to buy alks. I need to buy vars. I need to buy sextants. I need to buy scarabs. Scarabs probably won't stack. So it's like I need to manage 54 different types of scarab. Buying them is going to be kind of obnoxious because they probably won't be super accessible. So it's not like you're going to be buying them in bulk, right? It's going to be like whisper one guy buy 3, whisper another guy buy 2, whisper another guy buy 4. It's very unlikely you're going to be like buying 100 at a time, It's not like with chisels, you can buy chisels in bulk. It's going to be quite rare that you're buying these in bulk, and that will be pretty frustrating for a lot of people. Now, for the few groups who actually like play the game super competitively, this again puts further strain on those guys. Not only in terms of just like the XP ladder pushes, but also in terms of people who want to like push delve ladder. People were pretty upset with how you would feed sulfite to certain groups. People who generally don't like the whole like, traders and bitch boy mentality. More systems like this further promotes the importance of traders and bitch boys. So, yeah. Personally, I think this is a really cool system, and I'm really looking forward to playing with it myself. I'm really glad I'm not a super competitive player, because if I was, while I would be really excited to exploit the hell out of these guys, I'd also be like, dude, I don't want this extra tedium. I just want to play the game. So, yeah. TLDR, Scarabs are very, very cool. If you think I've missed anything out in terms of how they function, please let me know. But everything we've had here has been arsed and double-checked and fact, triple, quadruple checked. So this is the most we know about the system so far. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.